Today on the newscast, Israeli tourists in Turkey targeted by Iranian terror plots. Plus, U.S. soldiers in Iraq targeted by Iran-backed militias. Notice a pattern here? Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. It was a very busy couple of days in the world's most volatile and strategic region, the Middle East. We've got a lot to catch up on after yesterday's Memorial Day holiday here in the United States. Before I get into it, a quick reminder to subscribe, if you haven't already, to the Watchman News channel right here on YouTube, and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, it's hard to believe, but we are fast approaching 500,000 subscribers here on the channel, 500,000. We'd love if you could help us get to that number. And hey, for such a time as this, we're going to keep bringing you the truth. We will not mince words about these world-changing, history-making Bible times that we are living in right now, in particular, what is unfolding in the Middle East and how it affects you, no matter where you live. We appreciate your support very much. Okay, let's get right into it. I mentioned a lot going on and a lot to catch up on. Let's start with a bit of a rewind, but with new developments. We reported last week on the newscast about the elimination of an Iranian terror planner by the name of Hassan Sayyad Kodai out front of his home in Tehran. He was parked in his car last Sunday. Two unknown assailants on a motorcycle pulled up beside him, fired 5 shots into the car as he was parked in front of his house. I assume he was killed instantly. Now, at first, Iran didn't explicitly blame Israel, but now they are all in and saying, look, this was, quote, the Zionists, and they are vowing revenge. Just yesterday, the leader of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, and remember, Kodai, the man who was killed, a high-ranking officer in the IRGC, also, again, a terror planner in charge of planning attacks against Israeli and Jewish targets abroad. More on that in a minute. New developments there as well. But the leader, Hassan Salami, the leader of, yes, his last name, Israeli Salami, the leader of the IRGC, paid a visit to Kodai's family yesterday, explicitly blamed what he called the Zionists, meaning Israel, and vowed revenge. So the fallout from that very important assassination last week continues, but that brings us up to what I just mentioned, the targeting of Israelis and Jews overseas. Israel reportedly right now has issued a warning to some 100 Israelis living in Turkey to be on guard, perhaps to even leave the country because of Iranian plots against Israelis there. Not only that, Israel has now issued a travel advisory over Israelis traveling to Turkey, again, because of active Iranian plots against Israelis in that country. Now, a bit of background here. Many Israelis travel to Turkey, in particular in the summertime, as tourists. It is a favorite holiday and vacation spot for Israelis. It's a beautiful country. Even though there have obviously been serious tensions between Turkey and Israel over the past decade plus under the radical leadership in Turkey of Recep Erdogan, now he's trying to mend fences with Israel and trying to smooth over relations for one simple reason, folks, because Turkey's economy is in the tank right now. Inflation is sky high there. So all of a sudden, Erdogan, who is Muslim Brotherhood to his core, is trying to make nice again with Israel, the UAE, and Egypt. We'll see what happens there. Trust and verify repeatedly when it comes to Recep, or don't trust, I should say, but verify, to put a spin on that old quote by Ronald Reagan about the Soviet Union: trust but verify. Anytime something comes down the pike with the Soviets. So Israel is surely doing that. Turkey's probably none too happy about this travel advisory. But folks, again, active Iranian plots against Israel in Turkey. And a key point here, it had been previously Israeli businessmen and women, Israeli diplomats in particular, targeted in Turkey and elsewhere around the world by Iran. Now it looks as if, because the Mossad has had such, the Israeli Mossad has had such success in breaking up these Iranian terror plots against diplomats and other high-profile figures, now Iran is going to target just everyday average Israeli civilians and tourists. That's a big deal, folks. And honestly, Turkey's not going to like that either, because if a terror attack, God forbid, unfolds on Turkish soil, it's a black eye for Turkey as well. But Israeli civilians, this is a new escalation, I guess you could say. Bad enough, of course, for Iran to target high-profile Israelis, but bottom line here is major terror threat or terror alert for Israelis in Turkey right now, and the Iranian regime's claws are all over those plots. Speaking of which, I mentioned at the top, notice a pattern here. Yesterday, Monday, May 30th, on Memorial Day here in the United States, the Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq was targeted yet again by Iran-backed militias. Now, there have been some serious drone and rocket and missile attacks against that base, which houses U.S. troops. It's in western Iraq. It houses U.S. soldiers there in Iraq over the past 2.5 years. But yesterday, late Monday, we saw 5 Katyusha rockets launched against Ain al-Assad air base. One apparently at least landed inside the base, very close to the U.S. soldiers who are stationed there. Thankfully, no one was hurt or injured, judging by every report we have seen out of the region so far. Now, an Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militia calling itself the International Resistance, a vague general name there, they claimed responsibility for this rocket barrage against the Ain al-Assad base. It comes amid the backdrop, folks, remember, of number one, an absolute stalemate in Vienna right now between Iran and world powers, including the United States, in terms of that Iran nuclear deal, all centering on the U.S.'s refusal, thankfully and surprisingly, considering this is the Biden administration, to remove Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps from the terror blacklist. Is Iran, with this rocket barrage, trying to apply pressure there and saying, hey, if you don't give us what we want in Vienna, we will up the terror in Iraq and Syria against U.S. troops? That's first. And secondly, the U.S. seized, in an underreported story, the U.S. last week seized a Russian ship that was carrying Iranian oil. Now, Iran responded, and it was off the coast of Greece, and Iran responded by then seizing 2 Greek oil tankers. So we have a stalemate and a face-off there as well, and the U.S. seized that Iranian oil, by the way, because of sanctions against Iran, where Iran, under those sanctions, is not permitted to ship oil around the world. So that was seized. But again, these Greek tankers now are in Iranian custody, I guess you would say. That's something also to keep an eye on. Perhaps Iran is sending a message there. What all of this means, whether it's tensions between the U.S. and Iran, or obviously Israel and Iran, where Israel last week, in addition to the assassination of Kodai, also there was a drone attack against the Iranian military facility in Parchin near Tehran, where at least one Iranian engineer was killed. So, folks, things are heating up rapidly. It promises to be a long, hot summer in the world's hottest and most volatile region, the Middle East. So keep it right here on the newscast for all the breaking updates. Keep all of these situations in your prayer. We live in perilous times, no doubt, but these are also Bible times. Speaking of which, tomorrow, right here on the channel, we will have a Watchman Newscast live stream. Join us between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 solid hour of live analysis, and bring your questions for our Q&A session. That's tomorrow, June 1st. Wow, Wednesday, June 1st. Don't miss it. Until then, thanks so much for joining us today. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.